Mark,
Hey, Paul.
what's going on?
Nothing much. Just watching like an intergalactic wrestling match for the ages.
Yeah, we're going to tell you exactly how that ties into the House of Brainiac overall story, and we're going to do that right after this. Right after this. Oh, it's like, oh man,
This,
this.
this,
I can't. Oh, I need to get canceled. There we go. Oh man. Okay, here we
this.
go. So this started off so well that we're going to keep going. Um,
This.
this. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you can see us do that stuff like this every single week.
Stuff like
Um,
this.
that's stuff like this. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're alerted whenever we do stuff just like this. And leave a comment. Let us know how inept we are, what we do, or just tell us how you're thinking about House of Brainiac or about what we're going to talk about in this. Um,
This.
this. And this happens to be the House of Brainiac, the two tie-ins that we're talking about, because there was no main part of House of Brainiac that
Ah,
came out this week. And last week we had a tie-in, which was the Green Lantern number 10 that he was just showing there. It has a tie-in in the backup story. And then this week we had Power Girl number 8, which was a tie-in as well. And then we'll get into the House of Brainiac special will come out this coming week, tomorrow if you're watching this on Monday, or Wednesday if your comic shop doesn't happen to put them out on Tuesdays. Shame on them. However, so let's talk about the first one which came out last week, which was Green Lantern number 10, the backup story, which has Guy Gardner. It is actually written by our friend Mr. Jeremy Adams, and the art was
to,
by
to be clear, Jeff, you're a fine fellow too.
exactly
Jeff Adams,
Jeff
don't
Adams,
don't let
exactly.
that take that away from anything
Yeah.
that Jeremy's doing. Jeremy's fantastic. Jeff, you are too.
I am just crashing and burning tonight.
This.
Exactly. Art by
This
the
is
always
my fault.
amazing
This is all my
Kevin
fault. I'm
Kevin
sorry.
McGuire. Um, and I have to say, I really enjoyed the story. I'm not really sure where it's going, but as a Guy Gardner story, I really liked it. I'm not really sure how much yet it ties into the House of Brainiac overall, but I'm going to reserve my judgment for that because it is 3 parts. But
Yeah,
if you're
he's
looking for
looking for
someone,
Lobo. He's looking for someone
exactly.
who's not there, who's already in the story.
Right, exactly. So he's looking for someone. What I will say is that I said it's a Guy Gardner story because I think, except for probably maybe Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis or whoever you say his last name from the Justice League International, he probably comes pretty close to capturing the flavor. And with Kevin McGuire on art, it even more captures the flavor of that time because there's a whole scene with Booster Gold in it as well, which is textbook Booster Gold from that era. So I think it really captures the flavor of that time really well. However, as a tie-in to House of Brainiac, again, not really sure how that necessarily is going to work yet. We basically see Guy Gardner is basically looking for the main man, so he goes to a bar looking for the main man because he hears that the main man he hears on the radio or whatever on the TV that there's going to be the main man is going to be at this wrestling event later on that night. And so he goes to this wrestling event and he sees someone that, if you've read Jeremy Adams' The Flash, you're very familiar with. He sees Omega Bam Bam, who is the wrestler that was in Jeremy Adams' run on The Flash. And he happens to be, it's in a 2-on-1 match against the main man and then someone named Craig Meister 10. Now, if you happen to know Jeremy Adams and his history, you know that James Craig is a person he's a producer of a lot of the DC animated universe things, and he's kind of like Jeremy Adams' mentor. So this is kind of like a cool kind of a, so Craig Meister is kind of like a kind of a nod to him if you happen to know Jeremy Adams and his history. So that was kind of cool. Um, but he ends up these two. He ends up in this two-on-one. At the end, Guy Gardner comes and unmasks the main man, and it is a Zarnian, but it doesn't happen to be Lobo. Um, so we don't really know exactly where Lobo is still, unless you're reading the main story. He happens to be with Superman right now. Um, and so he now, Guy Gardner is trying to get this person to take him to where Lobo is, and he flies him out into space. He ends up, in space, and is, before long they end up in the middle of space, surrounded by everyone's favorite space dolphins. So let me bring that up and do that. I can
Yeah,
still do it.
that's kind of a tell. Like Lobo's normally nearby them, but it's unfortunate that we know Lobo's not there. He has appeared in the main story already. We covered that in a previous video. And for a little bit more context, it's pretty cool knowing that Guy looking for him is affecting the Green Lantern proper story because Lantern Shepherd goes to Guy's house looking for him and has to talk to Guy while Guy is out here even. So it's affecting the Lantern story, but I don't know like how you said how much it'll affect the House of Brainiac story. I don't know. This one might have just been a
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it basically it was. I mean, if you remember in the last Green Lantern story, in issue number 9, that's when everyone was getting together to to kind of go to Oa to try to figure out what's going on and everything with the United Planets and everything, and then someone offers Guy the chance to go capture Lobo, and he's like, okay, I'm out of here, and he like takes off, and then we see him again in this backup story. So yeah, it is kind of interesting how it's how it's going to affect the overall story. If this is the maybe they will somehow cross over with Lobo, but it does indicate that it's happening at the same time as Action Comics and some of the little notations. So
well, it
um,
definitely is because the continuity is tight. We've kind of
right,
mentioned that before. Like you get little nods to stuff to remind us how tight the continuity and stuff is right now. Even the quarantine that's happening in the Green Lantern comics is referenced in House of Brainiac with Superman and Lobo having to use the space hogs to fly under the radar of
right,
the United Planets and stuff. So big kudos to the continuity and stuff. And to be honest with
exactly,
you, I don't want this House of Brainiac story with Guy. We've had such
yeah,
a strong Green Lantern stuff going on with the introduction of Jessica and Joe and Kyle, getting Guy introduced, having him. It always feels a little hindered, and that's normal with events. Events can hinder like the momentum of a story. They can help it at times, but at least we're getting a Guy story. At least it was fun. The return of the wrestling characters from his Flash run was fantastic. It is just a legitimately a smile on your face little story. So I'm excited for it in that aspect. And if Guy shows up, I mean, it's one of those things like maybe it'll be like one of those like those moments where they come like heroically into a battle. Like he finally catches up with Lobo right where he started looking for him back on Earth, kind of thing, and
hmm
he just can dive into the battle because these two
right,
have a
yeah.
great history together.
Absolutely. Yep. Maybe he finds a way to get the space dolphins to Lobo to help him or something. Who knows? In the story coming up. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a fun little story. Like I said, it definitely to me had the vibes of the old Giffen, McGuire, DeMatteis run. So I really enjoyed that. Um, but we'll see where it goes from here. It's 3 issues. So it's 3 parts. We'll see where that goes. Next we have Power Girl number 8. Um, and you gave yours away. I
I did,
mean,
I did. I read it. I read through
yep,
it before I gave it away, though.
yep. Um, I'll be honest with you, I don't read Power Girl. I only picked it up for this issue because it was a House of Brainiac tie-in. So some of the things, like I mean, we definitely I know Omen from when she was when they did some of the stuff in Action Comics a while back, and some of the backup stories. But I don't know any of the history since then. So I'm sure there you probably get more out of it. If you know that, one of the things I was a little bit, I mean, it starts off kind of comically with her trying to roller skate, um, and when Power Girl says I'm top heavy, I'm like, you know what, I'm over that. To me, I'm like, you know what, we get it. We know what
He's
she's known for.
busting.
We know what she's known for, but hopefully that's not something that comes up in every issue.
To be fair,
Yeah.
this is almost like when I read, I'm like, this has got like that Rainbow Whoever She Hulk vibe. It's definitely like a self aware. I think it's written by a female, isn't it?
Yeah, Leah Williams.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those self aware, written by a female for female books kind of thing. So like, I get it in that aspect, but it's just not really my vibe.
Oh, and I wasn't I in no way didn't not enjoy it because I thought it was a man trying to write that about a
No, I
woman.
didn't enjoy it because it
It's
was
just
bad.
I just you know what we all know what it's like. It's like I mean in the 80s, did Dolly Parton have to reference her breasts every single time she
Well,
was on TV?
it would be like us dudes making crotch humor and
Right,
stuff. It's
right.
comparable to that. But I don't know. The book itself is just boring, if you ask me. Like the House of Brainiac tie-in, I guess the important part is some of the Zarnians that invaded Metropolis. There's a little band of them that decided to stay behind. I guess they didn't want to fight in this war. They wanted to stay in
Right.
Metropolis and knock around and stuff. And it's really them coming out of hiding in a trash can to check out the city and plan their spoils and getting confronted. So it's going to be some stragglers.
Yeah, and then the other thing that was a little bit was one of the things when Superman shows up, um, he tells Power Girl that all the other heroes have, all the other Superman family members, whatever, have been
Yeah,
captured by Brainiac, and she's wondering what about me, and he says, well, you're different
you're
because
from
you're
Earth
from Earth
too.
too. You vibrated at a different frequency.
Yeah, they're not picking you up. I love that. I absolutely love that.
However, if I'm not mistaken, the theory is that all the different Earths vibrate at a different speed, right?
Oh snap!
And if she's on Earth 1, she's got to be vibrating at the Earth 1 speed in order to remain on Earth 1, Earth 0, or whatever. She's got to be vibrating at the speed of that Earth to remain on that Earth, right?
I
Otherwise,
got
she would go back to Earth 2.
I get what you're saying. You're talking about like going back to Crisis with like the tuning frequencies and the big tuning
Right.
towers and the vibration stuff. I don't know if that's what he. I don't know if that's the kind of vibration. And maybe she just has. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Because
That's
that
just
was
a
the
context error. Yeah, that's a
go
plot
go
hole.
going way back to when to Flash, 123 or whatever it was, 123, right? Which you just happen to have at arm's length, I'm sure, right? The explanation was that every Earth vibrates at a different
Different
frequency, and that's
frequency.
why
Yeah,
exactly. And so to travel from one Earth to another, you had to vibrate at a different
that's
frequency
how
as well,
Flash does it.
right?
Yeah. So yeah.
So that was my only question there. So
Yeah.
um,
So I think that we just found like a DC fanboy plot hole.
that's right.
Boo
If
this writer. Boo. I'm just
exactly, if this was a Marvel book, I would get a no prize.
Yeah, but it was there. These are your traditional tie-ins that
Yeah,
really don't
exactly. Yeah,
mean a whole hill of a bean to the greater story. It just services the event. If you're following these titles already, it gets you involved in them. But
right.
luckily, with House of Brainiac, they're not doing this excessive tie-in stuff. It's just a couple little dots here, and the fact that Power Girl's in it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
She is a super family character. She should
hmm
be affected by it. She lives in the city. All that.
Yeah,
So
and so
really,
she's left. Superman goes off, leaves Power Girl and there's Batgirl's mentioned, Hawk Girl's mentioned to protect Metropolis and other parts of the cities as well. So, and that ends on basically there is a motorcycle, I believe. We get we see Crush, who is Lobo's daughter. So she shows up towards the end as well. And so it seems as though this whole three-part crossover is going to somehow involve the interaction with Power Girl and Crush, because that's kind of where the issue ends.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved the Mark Brooks B cover as a kind of homage to Adam Hughes, who did the one that kind of looked like this
Yeah,
as
they're
well.
falling in the sky.
Yeah, exactly. And he even says, after Adam Hughes. So,
That is pretty. I didn't even see that one.
and I just love Mark Brooks anyway, the covers that he does. So he's really good. So yeah, I mean, not a lot of substance. I don't think, especially not a lot of substance to the main story, which didn't really expect it to be. Um,
Next
Otherwise,
week, though,
exactly.
we get
House
a
of
lot of
Brainiac,
substance. We get the House of Brainiac issue
special.
2.5, which is a
Exactly.
special, as well as when we return next week, we'll also have
Free comic book day.
Absolute Power Free Comic Book Day special edition. So we will be diving our toes into the event itself next week, as well as getting the next huge chapter in House of Brainiac. Maybe we'll figure out why Amanda Waller's interested in Brainiac and what Brainiac is truly up to.
That would be wonderful, because the House of Brainiac should kind of just dovetail right into Absolute Power from a timeline standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
meaning from a real timeline standpoint, meaning when that ends, Absolute Power should just be beginning. Um, so yeah, looking forward to that. So I think it's one of these things. If you like Power Girl, I'm a big fan of Green Lantern and Jeremy Adams and his brother Jeff,
Jeff's
both of
great.
them. So if you have a chance to read Green Lantern, I would highly recommend it just for the main story. But the backup story was fun as well. But they're not necessary if to follow House of Brainiac at all. So if they're not your thing, you're not missing anything. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to understand the main story or not. So don't worry about that. But that's gonna do it. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Don't forget to leave a comment. Tell me how terrible I did on this particular episode, and we'll try to do better next time.
This episode.
This episode. But as always, I am Paul. He is Mark,
But we are Legion.
and you are now leaving Sector 2815.